Hello and welcome to the ASCSU Presidential Debate. I'm Kate Simmons, Content Managing Editor for the Collegian and CTV, and I'll be moderating this debate. With us, we have presidential candidates Jason Sydoriak, Lauren Wester, and Kwon Yearby. Thank you all for joining us today. To ensure a fair presentation for each candidate, their response will be allotted 2 minutes each. They don't have to use all their time, but I will give each of them 10-second warning when their time is almost up. For the format of this debate, the candidates will be allowed a rebuttal period if they so choose, in order to encourage an organic discussion of the issues most important to students. We hope to maintain a respectful and civil atmosphere deserving of the future representative of the student body. I'd like to start with Lauren. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
We haven't seen you in the plaza this week, and because you're a write-in candidate, correct?
Yes.
As a write-in candidate, Lauren's name won't appear on the ballot and will need to be written by each individual who wishes to vote for her. So Lauren, I'm wondering what made you decide to join the race?
That's an interesting question. Originally I wasn't planning to run. I had other plans, and then I thought about how everything that I've done with ASCSU and all the initiatives that I've started this year and how I wanted to continue those initiatives. And so I thought this was a way to at least have my initiatives be heard. So maybe, you know, if I don't win the election, one of these two can pick them up and they can be carried over to the next administration. So I'm very passionate about serving people and serving the students at Colorado State. So that's the other reason why I got involved.
Wonderful. So, Kwon, why did you decide to run?
I decided to run after really just looking at the climate of CSU, and I really feel like after the last couple years, we really need a strong president to say something. You know, I feel like Sam Gwynn and Nigel Daniels in their time, a lot of things got passed, and the culture of CSU has actually changed quite a bit. And I want to make sure that we can have responsible leaders that are leading us forward. So. And I felt like I was the best person for the job.
Cool. Jason, same question.
So I've always had a strong conviction to public service, and that's known with my time in the Marine Corps and other things that I've done outside of that. And I thought there wasn't really a strong voice for the students here, that the communication was fractured between the student organizations and whatnot. And I felt like I had the tools and the experience to actually make that happen, to have the student's voice be taken seriously. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to join this candidacy.
Great, thanks. I'm wondering if you guys can tell us a little bit about your campaign platforms, and we'll start with Kwon.
My campaign is Fight On, Vote Clayton and Kwon. And basically, it gets to the heart of our message, and our message is about fighting for the students. We want to fight for sustainability, we want to fight for student rights, and we want to fight for our CSU. In sustainability, we want to get more blue recycle bins on campus, more zero waste events, and we want to increase the on-campus stadium to reach the southern and western areas of campus, especially the Summit and Ingersoll residence halls. We also want to fight for student rights. I feel like we have the right to monthly grade updates so that every student can go through the semester knowing how they're doing, getting the help they need. Without that proper help, you can go the entire semester not knowing where you are and not getting the help you need. We also want to fight at the city level. We believe that housing has become pretty problematic for students across Fort Collins. I want to create a housing review board to evaluate the apartment complexes across Fort Collins, and I want to finally tackle U+2. We need to make sure our voice is heard on those issues. I also want to put sexual assault prevention courses in the AUCC core curriculum so that more male students, more students in general, can take those courses. I also want to bring back diversity, and that is all part of our CSU and why you should vote for me. We are running a green campaign, no flyers, just social media, just word of mouth, because we want to be sustainable and lead by example.
Great, thank you. Jason, same question.
Sure. So what we're really leading on is our experience. We bring a lot to the table, and we have our platform, which is academics, it's inclusion, and it's also student experience. And those aren't just empty gestures. we show with our experience that we can actually follow through with what we're going to say. I've been to Washington, D.C., I've lobbied for legislation there, and I've passed legislation there. And so that's what we can do for CSU, whether it's opening up an academic department at ASCSU so we can better construct a conversation and have students come to the table with faculty in a much more thorough way, rather than just going to the faculty council, or making the experience better for citizens, or students, for having food open late night in the LSC, so you don't have to leave campus to get food when you're studying. That way you can stay there comfortably, get food late night, and go back to studying, and focusing on what's important to you. Also, one of the big things is the Citizen Review Board. I think it's really important to have our dignity preserved, especially with all the issues that bike cops have been sort of putting forth on the students. I put forth a student survey that was sent out to the students last semester, and that's all I got. It was talking about grievances with bike cops, with how there's no communication between the police department and students. And so really what we're running on is that we have the tools, we have the experience to actually harness the potential of students, that opinion, to sit them down and have a conversation, but then follow through with that with action. And that's what we can actually achieve. All the experience I've had in the Marine Corps, all the experience I've had with City Council, being on the board for the Colorado and editorial, that's what we can do. We have the rapport with the local stakeholders, and we know they're going to take us seriously, that they're going to be happy to see us at the table. And I've got the experience where I'm going to take a hard line and not just be a yes man, that I can actually stay firm with my convictions for students. And that's what we can bring to the table.
Great, thanks. Lauren, will you tell us about your campaign?
Of course. So one of the main initiatives that we're working on for our platform is transparency, and we've seen some issues in the past year on transparency in general, or at least the student body and various people that we've talked to have seen a they've struggled with the transparency of ASCSU, and so I want to continue to build good relationships with such as the student media. I also want to raise awareness for what student government does and how it functions to the general student population, because I think that's important for them, just general information for what we are actually trying to accomplish. The second initiative that I'm running on, which I'm very excited about, is the Faith, Belief, and Spirituality initiatives, and this is basically to create more awareness and collaboration among faith, belief, and spirituality groups, and still respecting those voices that may come from more secular views as well. And so one thing that we want to do is raise awareness, create more access for students, and work towards creating a safe space for these conversations to take place in a non-judgmental environment. And really just take action on raising awareness for these issues. And then we also want to encourage several academic platforms, including encouraging professors to use open source textbooks. And also we want to expand the past student task force, which works on student success initiatives.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to open it up to the floor and ask if any of you have any questions for your other candidates about their campaigns.
I mean, I don't. I love pretty much everything that they have to offer. Honestly, whether or not, I mean, it's incredible the caliber of people that we have here to have this conversation. And whether or not, whoever gets elected, I am certain that we're going to pursue them and probably help each other out with these goals. So, I mean, I love all of it.
Yeah, I would agree with those same sentiments. Jason has always been a fighter for the students, and so has Lauren, and they're really great candidates. I just don't believe whether or not they have the best voice and can do the best job as president, and that's really why I wouldn't give my, I really wouldn't give my race up. But I do have a question. I want to know why integrate a religion so strongly into, I guess, a government system?
It's not really integration of religion, actually. It's basically what it is creating a neutral zone for students to come in and ask questions in a non-judgmental environment. So you've seen what happens on the plaza with people coming in and screaming at students on various, religious topics, and we want to create a safe space where students don't feel like they're getting berated by people on the plaza, or if people are interested in getting connected with a certain faith and belief group that they're interested in, we want to make sure that access is available for that. And we also want to expand the collaboration of faith and belief organizations to actually eventually hopefully work on issues facing campus. So that's kind of like the ultimate goal. But
so is it as part of that initiative going to be, I guess, limiting the free speech zone, or limiting the kind of people that are on the free speech zone?
I haven't really considered that at all, because I think free speech is definitely important on this campus, even if it can be damaging at times. I think it's up to the individual to hold themselves to a higher standard on those kinds of issues, but this is more focused on helping student organizations that are already affiliated with a faith or belief or spirituality, or not affiliated with something that would be considered the traditional religious or faith belief background. And so it's basically bringing these student organizations together to help them come together and help create a better environment for students.
Great, thank you. More information about each candidate's campaign platforms can be found on collegian.com. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk with the candidates about their policy and from everything from improving mental health on campus to the U+2 law. Don't go away.
Oh, hey there, Rams. Today is a great day to play in the LSC. So let's take a look at our ballrooms, theater, and art galleries. The LSC ballrooms, which are the busiest venue in northern Colorado, have been recently renovated. The Lory Student Center Theater can be transformed to feature films, concerts, lectures, entertainment, and banquets. And last but not least, the Kerfman Gallery provides a showcase for the creations of local and student artists.
Welcome back. Let's dive right into our next questions. I think we can all agree that parking-related issues affect a large amount of people on campus. How would you address issues of the lack of space and increasing pricing next year? Let's start with Jason.
So the biggest issue is that students aren't necessarily involved in this conversation. And we've realized that especially on Wednesday, when we had to finish up a resolution to send to the Board of Governors regarding our position on the new parking layout. So the fact that we weren't part of that conversation, the fact that we're scrambling to do exactly what the Faculty Council did, that's the biggest issue. So what we need is a task force of students that can actually thoroughly have this conversation, look at the layout, and then have someone who's a liaison part of that to report it to the Board of Governors. Because honestly, us just putting down a resolution, that's not the answer. We need to have someone there that will not only present it, but act as the voice. A piece of paper is not the voice. We need someone with a firm stance that can then relay our views, be able to articulate it. Now, one of the biggest issues is that we're going to be losing so many parking spots. Parking and services, they get their revenue from those spots. So now they do have to raise how much money it is to pay for those spots. So how do we expand more spots? I don't know, but there's certain areas on the periphery of CSU that I think we can very easily take a look at and try to maximize those locations so that we can increase parking, so that especially non-traditional students who drive here all the time can still utilize this campus, because it's not fair to them. They should be able to have access to this campus, and that's the land grant mission, and we should stick to it.
Great, thank you. Lauren.
So the deputy director of University Affairs has been working quickly on this issue, and she sits on the Parking Services Advisory Board, and so she's kind of been updated on all of this, and we've kind of seen the process and how it goes. And it is very frustrating that the Parking Services is basically moving forward with their plan without considering students' opinions, and so we're very concerned about that. And so one of the things that I would like to do is look at her feedback, and because she's been gathering feedback from different various entities on campus, and look at that feedback and incorporate that into a plan to move forward in the fall with, and try to build a relationship with Parking Services to advocate for students. And then also we want to make sure that the students are aware of what road closures will happen in the fall, and what parking spaces will be available, what parking spaces won't, and how the new system will work with payment and paying for parking and that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that goes smoothly, and so we'll be creating a campaign around to get students informed about this as well. So.
Great. Thank you. Kwon, same question.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think part of how we're going to solve it is by stop being so reactive and start being proactive. We have a student committee. When Jason talks about a task force, we already have something like that. Unfortunately, they're not getting the information, so we need to go out and seek that information. Me and Clayton, actually, when people were on spring break, wherever you went, Cabo or Padre or wherever you went, we actually were at City Council talking to them about the IGA, looking at the parking plan and saying we need more student representation on the Stadium Advisory Committee. We need more student representation when the city is making decisions, because obviously CSU is not getting us included in that conversation. So it's about being proactive and finding places where students can represent.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any rebuttal?
So, I mean, my biggest issue with being proactive on your part is that Clayton was not proactive. He was reactive. And you could see that with the resolution that he jumped on that he didn't originally author, and that was submitted to Senate, that was so awful that we had to stay until midnight to fix.
Well, don't you think that he got something done? You guys stayed till
We
midnight
got something done
to
too.
get a resolution. He fought to keep people in the room.
He was not the only one that fought for it.
Not the
though.
only person, but he fought to keep people
I
in the room.
myself fought for that as well.
So at least he initiated a discussion, right?
So he hands us a problem, and now we have to fix it, and now he champions it as if he was the one who fixes it.
He was
That's
the only one
issue.
trying to fix it. Where was your bill? Where was your solution?
The solution is to actually sit down and have a conversation. I've been in conversation with the director of parking services, and I agree with you. Well, so we have the committee, right?
Right.
Who sits on that? Barely any students have, until this parking plan came, which was reactive. And I think we all can do better to actually tackle this issue on parking, but we're not doing so. And we're all to blame.
Right.
So instead of saying we're being the proactive ones, let's just admit and be honest that we're all at fault. And
Well,
now
I'm
let's go about
I'm
it.
not in ASCSU, unfortunately, so I wouldn't say it's my fault.
I'm sorry that you're not.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So one of the main discussions on campus is how we can improve mental health. ASCSU has already worked hand in hand with the Health Network to provide more resources to students. Would you, as president next year, would you continue to promote these initiatives? And if so, how? You may.
Okay, so one of the great initiatives that I'm working on this year that I'd like to continue to push for next year is implementing a student absentee policy. So this would basically help students that are facing extenuating circumstances or very difficult situations, and it would basically allow them to be able to miss class under the documentation of either RDS or case management. And basically what would happen is they would verify the documentation of the extenuating circumstance or the tragic thing that's happening in their life, and then case management would go to the professor and say this student needs to not be penalized for their grade based off of this situation that's happening. And so That's one of the things that I'm working on to try to improve mental health, because I think it's one thing that's, you know, when these students are facing really difficult circumstances, it can take a toll on both mental and physical health and emotional health. And so I think letting students step back from their classes without grade penalization is a good way to support the students.
Kwon.
Yeah, that's actually something that's on my platform. It's called Self-Care Days. We want to do the same thing. We want to make sure there's a verifiable process, a confidential process where students can talk about what's going on and not have to necessarily tell their teacher that they're going through things. We want to make sure that they can get the counseling services they need, get the even free massages that they pay for, take that time, recalibrate, and get back into school. And I don't want to steal the thunder. It was actually Lauren Wester and Mackenzie Whitesell who championed this discussion in ASCSU and opened my mind, and that's why it's on my platform as well.
Jason?
Yeah, so I'm not going to jump on Lauren's coattails. She's done a phenomenal job spearheading that, and regardless of who's president, this is going to happen, which is awesome. This is great for the students. And so we have that in store. Also, let's extend that. Let's extend that to students that are doing academic activities, kind of like what we do with athletics. If you have self-worth, and you're participating in academic activities, then let's see if we can get you an excused absence for that. Because it really comes down to self-worth. And that's something that I've campaigned when I was raising awareness about suicide for veterans and service members, is how can we not only ensure that they have self-worth, but also let's redefine the conversation. This is about stigma a lot of the times. There's a lot of resources and people are not getting help because there's a stigma of getting help. So it's cultural, it's systemic, so we need to just redefine it and talk about this conversation in a different way. And so I think we have a great mental health department out of ASCSU. Let's augment that. Let's continue what Lauren's doing. And then also let's have more forums, kind of what I did for suicide awareness, to talk about the stigma, to talk about you know, changing the conversation, because we have the conversation over and over again, and it seems like we're just educating people with the same old. Let's change it up. As simple as that.
Great, thanks. U+2 is a municipal issue, but it continually resurfaces as a major student concern. What resources and connections do you have to effectively lobby City Council on students' behalf?
Yeah, I'll take that one. U+2 is a big part of my platform. We actually partnered with Ward Luthi, a mayor candidate. He's looking really strong. His yard signs are everywhere. He's been doing a great job getting the community involved, because it's actually a lot of the older community, long-time Fort Collinsers that really want Ward Luthi, and the students want him too, because he's active in trying to fight against the needless construction as well as fight against discriminatory policies. So if you received a ballot in the mail, vote for him. Even if he does not win, we have a plan to fight this on a discriminatory level. I think there's equal protection language we could go. There's already different zonings, preferential treatment that the city gives to different apartment places in different parts of the city. We want to make sure that we can standardize it and make it fair for students, because we really feel like they're being targeted.
Jason?
So, one thing, we can't have our solutions contingent on another election race. I'm very connected with City Council. I've interviewed all the upcoming candidates for City Council, especially on this issue, and both Ward Luthi and Wade Troxel are willing to have this conversation, perhaps U+3, or increasing more zones that have lenient ordinances. So let's have that conversation. And even if they do get in office, let's say they both propose that, yeah, we're going to change this for citizens, there's still an entire council that we have to have a constructive conversation. And pulling out the war drums and banging on them and telling them this is what the students want is not constructive. We need to be able to tell them we're willing to have a conversation on expanding zones within the city, which they know is imperative with the expansion of CSU, the expansion of the population of Fort Collins. actually sit down and tell them U+3 is what we want, expansion of the zones with lenient ordinances. I've spoken to all the city council members. I'm on the editorial board for the Coloradoan, and we've had these hard questions brought to them, and they're willing to have a conversation. It's not that city council doesn't want to have a conversation at all. They're not boarding up their doors to us. They just want to be able to do it in a constructive manner that I think we can all benefit from. Not just students, but also the residents around. Because this is Fort Collins we're talking about. It's not necessarily CSU, but we can still make sure the students' voices are heard in a very strong fashion.
Lauren.
So one of the main things that I want to focus on is building that good, strong connection with the City Council, which we already do have at ASCSU, and I just want to continue that and the work that we're doing. And so one of the ways that I want to come to City Council is to say, okay, this has been a huge issue for students, and it's been as big of an issue for students as long as I've been here. And so like how can we get a handle on this, and how can we improve students' living accommodations without creating this us against City Council kind of connotation, I guess you could say. I want to do it in a very positive light. I want to find alternative things that we can do and policies that we can probably possibly have City Council implement in order to deal with this issue that students are facing, because the pricing of housing is going way up, and I think it's important to somehow make living more equitable for students that are paying very high tuition rates. And any way we can help the student succeed better, both financially and academically, I think that will, in the long run, put them in a better place after graduation.
Great. Do we have any rebuttal?
Yeah, I would love to clarify that we're not just working with Ward Luthi. We have different districts that are being voted on. Nancy Tellez is getting my vote in District 2. She is also very sustainable and a very green candidate, and actually has some parallels with Ward Luthi. It's not about banging war drums. You're right. We need to work with these people. We need to work on it, but it is about making noise, though. The reason why we're not getting anywhere on U+2 is because the students have been silent. And Councilmember Capana said last night he hasn't heard anything from the students. How can we seek to be represented if we're not saying anything?
I wouldn't say students have been silent. I would say that there hasn't been a leader that has been able to mobilize and then transfer that energy to somewhere constructive. And burning your bridges before you actually approach the problem, approach the solution, is not the way to go about it. And by endorsing candidates for city council is just that, burning your bridges, especially for candidates that they don't necessarily espouse expanding Fort Collins to accommodate for the increased population size, which involves expansion of I-25, which neither of those candidates do.
Next question. The inauguration ceremony for ASCSU President involves the passing of a sword, which symbolizes their obligation to defend the student body's interests, especially when those interests are in the opposition to the administration. What will you do to represent the students when our values don't align with the administration? Let's start with Lauren.
Okay. So this is a great question. It is a difficult balance to try to balance what the students want versus what the administration is talking about. And I think for a lot of things it should, give me a second. Okay. So I think for a lot of things what should happen is that the relationship between the administration and the student body and ASCSU should all be kind of working as one entity and not necessarily just as 3 separate parts, because I think we all love this campus and we're all in this campus to make this campus better. And so one of the things that I want to do, my job will be, as president, my job will be to represent the student voice to the administration. And so I will continue to push what the students want, even if it is in opposition of the administration, but still maintaining a good working relationship with the administration, and having that balance between constructive criticism versus keeping that relationship intact.
Great. Kwon?
Yeah, that's specifically what my campaign is about. It's about holding that sword of the president, defending the students, and fighting for the issues that we want. I want to be active. It's not about banging war drums or being confliction or creating conflict. It's about fighting for what we want. You know, too often our representatives are pandering to the administration, pandering to city officials, and I think my opponents are going to do exactly that. If I get the sword of the president, you will know that I am fighting for you every day. I will show that in my visibility and getting things done.
Great. Jason?
Look, I served 6 years in the United States Marine Corps infantry. I can assure you I take a firm ground. And our color is purple, and that's because it represents sacrifice. And that's something I understand more than probably my opposition, and certainly many of the people on campus. And that's what I would bring to ASCSU, sacrificing my time in order to make sure your voice is heard. I hold a firm ground. You know, if I get no, I understand how you can adapt and overcome, because it's not necessarily the solution is what the students want. The solution is what the administration wants. The solution is how do we cooperate in a community to make those things work so that everyone benefits, so we can you know, really make CSU the best place for us all. And it's not about pandering. I assure you I wouldn't be a yes man. That certainly didn't happen during my time in the Marine Corps. And it certainly hasn't happened when I went to Congress in Washington, D.C., and we were constantly told no for a veterans bill. It failed. And then we brought it back because we reorganized it so that it would actually work and be passable. And then guess what? First bill that was passed in 2015. So that's the sort of careful consideration, firm consideration that I would bring to the administration, because we don't want them to run away. They're our partners in this. And my motto is to be bold yet calculated. And that's exactly what I would be for the students.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
So my question for you, Jason, is you keep talking about this legislation that you passed, and how would the skills that you used in Washington, how would you bring that back to the student body and bring it to the university level?
Well, honestly, it's about understanding others, understanding their needs, understanding the tensions and values that come about when you have an issue, be able to kind of take a step back, really realizing those, and then going back to the table and accommodating for that. That's what I would bring to the Board of Governors, while still holding a firm ground, because that's what's needed in order for all our interests to be met.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to respond to kind of the stuff that you were saying. You know, I think, you know, sometimes compromises have gone too far. And in the past couple of years, the students have made so many compromises so that the university can go forward, so that the university can make more money. But what about the students? What about the students' voices? It's clear that in the future of this university, students aren't being accounted for. And we want to make sure that's a change. And that comes with saying, no, we're going to do it this way. But I've proven that I can compromise. I actually wrote the diversity bill, which took me almost a year and a half to pass, just to get representation for students that look like me, students that don't look like the people in ASCSU. It was compromised because instead of getting...
You didn't change your legislation.
No, I did.
You pretty much held your firm ground.
Would you like me to tell you how I changed it?
Well, over a year and a half, how
much
did you change it to accommodate other people's views?
I wanted it to have voting rights, where these students had complete voting rights and could stand on an equal footing with the senators that we have in there. Unfortunately, I had to tell African American and Hispanic students that they could represent their population and could not vote. That hurt me to the core, given the historical precedent. And that was a compromise I made just to get it passed.
But those representative seats were not being filled because they didn't have voting rights. They were not being filled because of something that was more systemic. That legislation wasn't really hitting the nail on the head. And so what came of it, the compromise that Senate actually wanted occurred after your absence.
And now there's only one seat.
Now we have the
10
Inclusive
seats.
Excellence Committee, which is the compromise that they
But there's
asked for.
nobody on that committee. That committee is not
I'm on
running,
it.
and I had 10.
We've had meetings, and
Who
I've been
else?
on it.
Are there any representatives?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, that's it for our debate. Thank you to the candidates for being here. We wish you the best of luck. Don't forget, voting is from April 6th, beginning at 8 a.m. to April 8th, ending at 4 p.m. You can cast your ballot in the Lory Student Center, in Morgan's Library, or online at Ramweb. With the Collegian and CTV, I'm Kate Simmons. Thank you.